the holidays, so I've kind of been playing a bit of catch up, but it's all good. All good.
Okay, we're good to go.
I haven't golfed yet, so that explains it right there, right?
No,
Hang on a
give me a
second.
call.
So I've kind of been playing a bit of catch up, but it's all good. All good. Give me 1 second.
Okay, we're good.
Sorry about that. I think my timer's on my light's on a timer here. Okay. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order at 4:34. First item of business is to recognize the traditional territories. I would like to acknowledge as the chairperson that the land that the Fallen Firefighters Memorial Task Force meets today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Acknowledging this as a reminder that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples. Next item is the agenda, which was circulated a couple of days ago in advance. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve, please. The seconder, motion by Ryan Medill, seconded by Councillor Dodge. All those in favor? Motion's carried. The minutes from the previous meeting were also circulated to everybody in advance. I'd like to get a motion to adopt the minutes from the previous meetings. Chief Upper, seconded by Trevor Parker. All those in favor? Carried. There are no declarations of interest and no presentations from invited guests. We then move to business arising. Just a quick overview for those of you that either didn't attend the last meeting. A recap on our fundraising. I got a check today for 10 grand. So we still have a few out there. I have a fairly decent negotiation underway with a volume purchase of bricks. We'll see where that goes. And still 2 or 3 people that are under consideration. But Lori and I got a chance to meet after a long time last week. And it was 1 week or 2 weeks. It was a week ago, wasn't it? Anyway, so I got caught up on everything. And as you'll see reflected in the minutes, I will keep the initiatives that we have underway still going. And we're optimistic that, especially with the construction and a few other things, the bricks will continue to hopefully sell. But we're in excellent shape with respect to what our current finances are at. The little work to do, I think, on some people that either sign commitments and have or need to sign commitments and start their payment plans. But certainly the contractor in particular has all that they need to get going here. So pursuant to that, I did have a meeting. There was a little confusion around the flagpoles, which were scheduled to be installed like 6 weeks ago or something, and a couple months ago, and there was some permits and things needed. So what it did is identified to us that sort of a gap that exists in ensuring that a group like ours that's comprised of citizens and city staff, but also the firefighters, et cetera. We're not general contractors per se, or we're certainly not project managers. So I did reach out to the mayor, who was helpful and has committed some support from the CAO's office, et cetera. And so I went back to the contractor with that and have some news to report to you with respect to the construction. Let me just get that up here. Okay. So I met with the contractor last week, and we sort of agreed on a date and a to-do list. So I'm uncertain on some of these items what the best route forward is. So I'd like to look at that as an action item for today's meeting, even if we have to check with somebody else. And I'll preface my comments by saying I really don't expect Lori to do all this work. I know she's our city liaison, but it's really not fair to dump all this because we're moving into construction-oriented decisions and programs. So this is what I have. We have June 10 as our start date. So that was in part so we could get things done in advance, or at least a line of sight in them. And what we're looking at for that is the flagpole installation, the sign, all the foundations for the sign, all the benches, and the trees, and some other landscaping around the flagpole. So, and if we get the sign finalized, they have the slab there. It's a massive, that's the sign that has the name of the park on the one side and then the major donors on the back. So they would have had that done too, but I need time to finish all the work with the major donors. But it brings up a number of things that we need to get going on. There's two items that I really have no line of sight into, which is electricity and irrigation. So we had discussed in the past potentially getting Electra to assist with the step-down transformer, which I can undertake to reach out to them myself. But Matt Harris was actually looking into that way back when, and I have no idea unless somebody here knows if anything ever happened on that. The reason why is if we want to light this at night, our options are to get power service that they can use or use solar, which is an unreliable option. And I don't, I hear the stories about challenges in downtown St. Catharines, vandalism and things like that. I'm assuming lighting would be a help in both prevention, but it's also something that we both budgeted for and targeted as a deliverable. So I'll pause there for a second. If anybody has any input on it, other than that, I can resurrect the discussion with Electra. But the idea was to see if they could install that and work a deal with them on sponsorship or donation. Is that everybody's recollection?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Chief?
Yeah, I think the lighting, like you said, downtown is critical. So it's something that we should be moving on. And then to your point, I think Matt Harris would be a good point of contact for that. So I don't know, Barry, if you want to talk to him, or I can reach out to Matt, however you want to do it.
Why don't you, if you don't mind, Chief, speak to Matt, and I'm going to go to the guys right at Electra. And I know he's on that board, but it's better if you talk to him, and I'll speak to a couple of the guys, the senior people that I know there. We work with them on the Mayor's Golf Tournament, so we have a pretty solid relationship.
Okay, sounds good. I'll talk to Matt.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll leave that one there. And then the other one is irrigation. And my recollection on this one is there was irrigation on site. It was a surprise discovery when we were on site with some of the city staff and when they're looking at foundation work, that there was actually water brought to the site for whatever was going to happen in the future, but it's never utilized. So that's another. If we go with landscape installation, we have to ensure that there's the irrigation piece is looked after too. So we're getting into these sort of construction-oriented decisions. So the ideal thing I think would be if I'm just tabling this, if Melanie had a point of contact at the city. Like I'm out of my depth as a GC, I'll fully admit it. I mean, I've funded projects, but I'm not the mechanical guy to make decisions on site. And the city's going to have rules, right? They're going to have, certain standards that need to be met. There's street closures and permits and things of that nature. So I don't, I'm happy to double back with the CAO. And if anybody else has any, I know we had Anthony once before. I mean, do you guys, I mean, Dave, you work with these guys, Laurie, you work with these guys. Is there a path here that you can maybe help us with or suggest to do stuff, Chief?
Yeah, maybe what I can do is I'll reach out to Anthony Martuccio and see if we can scab one of the project managers for this. It's not a huge endeavor, so it shouldn't take a ton of time. I know that they're busy like everybody else is, but I think probably be able to grab somebody. I know like we're doing a lot of work with Vince Covata, so I mean maybe Vince can help us out on this. I'll talk to Anthony about it.
That'd be great. I mean, Melanie feels that, like, especially after this June 10 day where they'll make significant headway on the major installs. They're still waiting for that statue, which is, out of her hands. It's third party. She's paid for it already out of funds that we have. So she's but they still believe like this is, couple of months and that's it. And especially if they get a lot of, like, she's allocating equipment and all the stuff that they do to try to make the June 10 day a fairly substantial, bout of work, like a few days, et cetera, on site to get all that going. So, and Anthony would be great. And so I'll leave that with you right now, Chief. I'll by way of communication, just keep the, maybe the mayor apprised, but, is there any rule other than that? Like, should we talk to anyone else there, or is we leave it with Anthony? We're in good hands.
No, I think if we talk to Anthony, we'll get to him to tell us which one of his staff members we can scab. I'll strong arm him.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then okay, so then the next item is the confirmed engravings, and this is a challenge. So we have our major sponsors, which have the option of putting a logo because they have enough room to do that on their site. We have the tree plaques and the bench plaques and the pavers, which are the pathway bricks, right? So I'm going to start by saying my belief is that while we have names, we have no information on what they would want on their memorials. Is that correct, Lori? Yeah. And would it be a massive undertaking? You coming through? You got me? You want to talk?
Yeah, I got something for
Okay.
you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to back up a little bit. I just wanted to make the task force aware that in the last few weeks, I have had probably no less than half a dozen inquiries from donors, both phone calls and email messages, asking for updates on this project. So we need to remember that when we first launched the online fundraising portal, it was around May of 2022. So it has been almost 2 full years now since some of the initial donations and brick purchases were made. So a few of those donors did express to me their disappointment that there haven't been more regular updates sent directly to them. One donor suggested that we should have had a newsletter to keep them in the loop. What I would like to recommend is that the city staff work with yourself, the chair, and with Dave Upper, the fire chief, to update the messaging on the city's website. We can add some recent photos, perhaps some graphic with a fundraising goal thermometer, that kind of thing. And then secondly, we send an email blast to all the past donors, providing them with a link to the updated website. But this communication outreach would also be an ideal time to do exactly what you've suggested. and to circle back with those who have already purchased a brick as an example, but we still don't have their desired brick inscription on file. So what they want actually engraved on the brick, we don't know. This is also a good time to assign this work because we do have a summer student in the culture office who can provide some additional administrative support for the task force moving forward over the next few months to confirm some of these details. So I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Chair, but I think it's a great suggestion, and we can maybe kill a couple of birds with one stone by reaching out and providing an update, a positive update, and actually asking them to confirm some of the finite details that we need to provide the contractor moving forward.
Thank you very much, Lori. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. I've received probably even more. You know, I get the inquiries from the donors like weekly on what's happening. So I've managed the ones that have come my way, but I wouldn't for a second. I'm not surprised at all. I think it's frankly a fair request, and we may be over relied on city comms and even unpaid media in the past to keep people updated, and that you know, once we sort of got in the ballpark of the finish line, some of those updates kind of fell by the wayside. But I'm thinking of this in two sort of ways. So, but I want to take advantage of. I mean, I think it's an ideal solution if you have somebody in your office, because that's exactly what this needs. It's a detail-oriented administrative style undertaking. So that's exactly what this project needs. But I think there's twofold goals here. So just make sure we're aligned. One is to contact the existing donors, of course, provide an update, an enthusiastic update, but equally as important, get the information that's needed to process their donation. So I look at that as a separate email specifically to all donors, and start that process, particularly with your staff, to start to accumulate all that info, get a spreadsheet together, and that can go directly to the contractor. So that's sort of functional communication one. Then two is general community style, update on the project, and that's city comms, potentially some social media activity throughout various, and we'll get a message together and some graphics together or something like that, whether it's a thermometer or something like that, and say 90% or whatever, and still some bricks available, like something that's got a call to action in it, and then work directly with comms on just getting that out there to keep it topical, fresh, etc. Is that what your thinking is? Like, to sort of a two-pronged? I want to make sure we're aligned here, because I agree both are needed. I think the donor piece in and of itself will quell concerns from donors that have had their money tied up for a little bit, but also a very functional, real need. But while we're doing it, especially if there's activity on site, maybe we do a refresh on our comms to begin with. What are people's thoughts on that as a strategy? Good? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments, additions, or anything like that? So that's an action point. We don't need to motion this. So action point one is let's Lori, you and I will align on a message to donors, and it'll come from Chief. You'll be in on this as well, right? So a message to donors, and then we'll just, if you've donated a brick, here's the rule. Like, we have to give them their guidelines. You have 4 lines, 16 characters per line, something like that. And then if you've donated a bench, this is what you have. And if you donated a tree, this is what you have. And maybe even say, we'd like to get these in by, put a date on it, that kind of thing, and start that process. So the three of us, that's action point one, will align a communication. Then we'll turn it over to Lori's office to functionally integrate it. We're good on that? Okay. 2 is city comms. Who wants to talk to them? I can certainly put some messaging together. Trevor?
Yeah, I can reach out to comms and we can start to put something together.
Okay, great. I think that once we sort of align on the donor communication piece, we'll extract some of those points, update points, and just say, these are the things that are going out to our donors. These are the things that we'd like to get across as many platforms as we possibly can. And then I think if there's a fair bit of construction going on in June, we may get the Standard and some other people to do an update article. I'll reach out to Karina. She's kept it. She's written 3 articles on it, or 4 articles over the 2.5 years or whatever we've been at this thing. So that'll be the strategy. So step 1 is aligning the communication, direct to donor communication. Then Lori can take it from there. Step 2 is from that, give points to Trevor to work with City Comms on a, I'm in the dark again. That's not to say City Comms is in the dark. I didn't say that. I just said I'm in the dark, just so we're clear. Point of clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then we'll follow up. We'll just leave the media piece ad hoc. We'll see how we make out on these 2 fronts first. Okay, comments, questions, concerns on that as our sort of next step takeaway strategies here. Okay, back to the agenda. We made decisions on the plan last meeting. That's all in the minutes. And that's about it. Are there any items of, nothing else I can say? Is there any items of new business? I looked like the Queen video, you know, where they sing Bohemian Rhapsody and there's just their head floating there. Kind of liking it. Anyway, I got to walk like 12 yards to put the light back on. So I'm just
you look cooler with the black behind you than the
Yeah.
illumination. It was almost like you were speaking from up in heaven to
That's
us.
right. That's right. It's the voice of God coming down. Anyway,
Kind of like
listen,
Robert De Niro.
Yeah. Minus the zeros in my bank account. But listen, when I spoke to Melanie, for what it's worth, just by way of closing, she's genuinely excited to get going on this. I forced her to get a date because this is the challenge of these committees. When it's not a private enterprise thing, there's not one person paying her, or she's not working directly for the municipality per se. And but she's fairly gung-ho on this. I talked to her again yesterday just to confirm everything in advance of getting on this call. So our challenge would be to I say this with all due respect, to ensure that the procedures from the city are there to help and assist with her getting this project done, as opposed to putting up any sort of drags or barriers. Any other items, any comments, questions, or concern? No. If not, I can entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Chief Upper, seconded by Trevor. All those in favor? Okay, thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Look forward to the next round of communications, and hopefully we may just have our next meeting on site in June for the hell of it.
Oh, that would be nice.
All right. Take care. Thank you.